So good afternoon. My name is Corinne Kevorkian, co-owner and director of Gallery Kevorkian in Paris, specialized in ancient Near Eastern and Islamic art. So we've been exhibiting in Tefaf, Maastricht for 10 years now, since 2013. And I'm very glad to introduce today a couple of pieces of different period that we are exhibiting here and which are very characteristical of the kind of material we are dealing with. The first one is that beautiful terracotta statuette which comes from the south of Caspian Sea in northwestern Iran. It's the so-called Amlash art or Marlik civilization which settled in this region of Iran in the early 1st millennium BC at the Iron Age, and they were characterized by this very beautiful and modern looking production of terracotta figures.
The sculpture has very pronounced forms. It sort of reminds me dimly of the Venus of Willendorf, for example. Why is that? Could you explain that?
Well, it's hard to say really, but it's true that in some period and sometimes in very remote periods, you have a sort of depiction of only essential forms deprived of any anecdote, and they are nevertheless very sensuous. If you please, we are going to move on to another part of my booth and to another period. The second object I would like to introduce is this beautiful, fragmentary but still very beautiful monumental pinhead, which belongs to a civilization which is very dear to my gallery and to my family story, which again, of course, is in Iran, in western Iran, a little bit further to the south of the Marlik civilization. This time we are in Luristan, which is nowadays has the same name. It's in the Zagros mountain range in western Iran, and the Luristan civilization was a very developed civilization of bronzesmiths, and this piece is absolutely unique. So it was a pinhead hammered and with embossed decoration, and with this very striking mask at the center, with this very strong and very expressive features. It was probably a female figure. It has been compared to the Greek Medusa figure, but it's probably more linked to a sun symbolism and also to a fertility symbolism, and probably this small rosettes, very stylized rosette design that you have around, probably depict some kind of constellation. So it's probably a cosmogonic symbolism and also a fertility symbolism. It's a very not well-known art at all, and it deserves to be more publicized and known because it's extremely original. So now we are going to make a leap from the early 1st millennium BC to the 10th century AD this time. So now we are in the Islamic period, and this is a very, very striking example of a Samanid ceramic production. The Samanids being the first Iranian dynasty who actually promoted for the first time since the Arabic invasion of Iran. It's the first time that the Persian culture is so much promoted, and so they actually used Persian language instead of Arabic. It was also the time when the most important literary probably work of Iran, which is the Book of Kings or Shaame, was written, and it was a dynasty which developed also these beautiful and again very modern looking ceramic wares, which incidentally are not, whereas as I said they promoted the Persian culture and language, but these were inscribed in Arabic and not in Persian. There is a very beautiful sense of rhythm given by the horizontal and vertical strokes of the writing. The inscription is very meaningful. And on this one, for instance, it says that greed is a manifestation of poverty. It's really food for thought in a way. The last piece that I would like to introduce you is this beautiful page coming from a manuscript of the Book of Kings I was mentioning earlier, called in Persian the Shaame, which is probably the most important literary work in Iran. It would be the equivalent of the Iliad and the Odyssey. The story relates the story of pre-Islamic Iran from its mythical origins to the Sasanian dynasty, which is the last dynasty to have ruled before the Arabic invasion. So this manuscript has been produced in Qazvin in the second half of the 16th century, and Qazvin at that time was the capital of the Safavid Empire, which was the largest empire in the 16th century. At the time, the Iranian civilization and culture influenced a lot the other Eastern empire, which were the Mughal Empire in India and the Ottoman Empire in Turkey. In both these other empires, the court language was Persian. This is very interesting on different levels. First of all, it shows that in Islamic civilization and in Islamic Iran, contrarily to what is often believed, there is a lot of figuration. Since we are not in a religious context, there have been many depictions of living creatures and of human beings. And on this page, you can, even if you don't read Persian, you can recognize some of the characters, specifically this one, which is Rostam. Rostam being the champion of Iranian royalty, and so you can recognize Rostam through his tiger skin coat and his leopard skin helmet.
Yes. Rustam was a kind of Hercules figure, right?
Absolutely, yes, exactly.
Completed all these difficult labors.
Absolutely, he had his trials like Rustam and other heroes also of the Shahnameh, but he's probably the most famous of them all, and absolutely comparable due to his strength and the trials he had to go through with Hercules, absolutely.
Hello, I'm Wendela Burgemeister. I work for the Salomon Lilian gallery, and I would like to tell something about this little tronie. We can date it to circa 1631, 1635. It's probably painted in Leiden. At this time, Rembrandt just left Leiden to work and live in Amsterdam. But he had certainly influence on the painters in Leiden in this period. In 1626, there was the Persian envy coming to the Netherlands. And with his coming and living in The Hague, working as an ambassador for Persia, he brought fabrics and he showed fantastic fashion like this. The feather is probably a feather of a paradise bird, which was also painted by Jan Lievens in a famous portrait. We're not sure who the artist is of this fantastic little portrait, but we think it is the prototype for a series of tronies. And some of the little portraits like these were attributed to Jan van Staveren, but we think this is of higher quality than his paintings. The coloring reminds us of Rembrandt, the light, the chiaroscuro, and the finely painted technique reminds us of Rembrandt, but we don't have a name for this beautiful piece yet.
Yes, so not just the technique, but also the sitter's face is very familiar to me. There is a painting by Rembrandt of a man in an oriental costume in the Outer Pinakothek in Munich. And I would say that must be the same sitter, right?
I think he resembles him. But it's possible, somebody reminded me of that possibility, that it could be the Moussa Beck. He arrived in Holland in 1626. I haven't seen other images of him yet, but it's still something to look into.
Yes, and the dendrochronological report was made by Dr. Peter Klein?
Yes, it was, yes.
And what else did it say?
We also had infrared pictures made, and there's a beautiful underdrawing which is not typical from Rembrandt or Jan Lievens, but maybe Gerardou. The underdrawing is so nice. It is really a sketch for a beautiful painting, and let's hope we find the artist.
Hello, I'm Lucinda Boyle from Shapero Rare Books. We specialise in works and paper and travel, natural history, Russian books and limited edition 20th century prints. We have this rather wonderful manuscript, which is a collection of poems called the Divan by Hafiz Shiraz, which was issued as its manuscript, issued in 1848, originally done in 1265. It is very rare to see a manuscript of this quality. It's done on special paper, which has been highly polished, and it feels like silk. And the binding has been made out of paper mache and has been specially produced with extra colouring, and there is no restoration. It's in perfect condition. This is a prime example of Persian manuscript production, which was at this period in Persian history in the 1840s very high quality. I would like to show you some pages inside, if I may. Yeah, these boards are all made from the layer of paper mache, and which forms this sort of thick hard board, and then they've been hand painted with lacquer on top to finish it, and they've all folded and glued together, which forms one binding. That is stunning. This is all paper mache and then hand coloured and painted on top. It's hard to believe, actually. Amazing. The date is written in gold at the bottom here, and as you can see the shine on the paper, which means it's been beautifully polished. And if I turn the pages, you can see the quality of the production. The other interesting thing about this particular example is it has the export stamp at the end here, which shows it left Persia in the 1950s during the Shah's time, and ever since this work has been in private hands. The calligraphy inside is the typical traditional Qajar style of manuscript decoration. We think it belonged originally to the Grand Vizier of the court in 1848.
What's the asking price?
18,000 euros.
Hello, I'm Mehmet Keskiner. My art gallery is Kent Antiques from London. We specialize in Islamic art as well as orientalist paintings, and today I would like to present one of our highlights here, which is the Qajar painting, which represents Persian noble lady as an acrobat doing a handstand. The painting is probably coming from Shah Palace in Tehran, the Luristan Palace. There are two other counterparts of this painting which are exhibited in the V&A, Victoria Albert Museum in London, which Laila Diba attributed to the artist Ahmed. He was active between 1850 and 1850, so it's the first half of the 19th century. You can see here the bejeweled costume and her tiara with rubies and emeralds and pearls. As you can see, the dress is embroidered with roses, and the famous 14th century Persian poet Hafiz had a station, if I may read that to you, to do with the roses, and he said, "I went to the garden one morning to pick a rose and suddenly heard a nightingale song. Like me, the poor bird had fallen in love with the rose, and in the field raised the commotion with his cries." So the roses symbolize the beloved. So there is a connection with the beloved and the loved ones in this painting, actually.